Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Katie Britt just takes it to Dana Bash, reminding her what's actually at fault for the Schumer shutdown, and it all leads back to, of course, Obamacare. Let's dive in.
In many states, people are beginning to see how much their health costs will rise if the expanded Obamacare subsidies expire. That's, of course, what Democrats have been warning about. 130,000 of your constituents in Alabama could lose their coverage. And your leader, the Senate Majority Leader John Thune, says he is willing to hold a vote to extend those subsidies if the government reopens. Would you vote to extend the subsidies?
Look, first off, let's be honest about this. Democrats are playing politics. They are pandering to the far left because they're actually terrified of them. They're not working for the American people. Leader Thune has put a clean CR that has passed the House on the floor. This is something that Democrats voted for 13 times under President Biden to give us an opportunity to continue to do our work, the actual appropriations process, which you hear no Democrats talking about. When it comes to the ACA subsidies and these COVID era subsidies, look, you didn't hear them talking about that until days before they put it, until the government was needed to be funded. And the bottom line on this is, when you look at the costs that are coming up in 2026, the vast majority of the costs that the American people are going to see, 80% of the raise in prices that they will see in Obamacare, has to do with a fundamentally flawed program, Dana. Look, from the very beginning, Obamacare was never affordable. You even saw the Washington Post say the Affordable Care Act was never affordable. So coming in 2010, they put in subsidies in 2014, then put them in again in COVID in 2021. And these subsidies that they are fighting for allow millionaires to be able to take advantage
so that's
of
about
them. So
reform.
You have people that have reached out. Wait, hold on one second, Dana. You have people who have reached out to our office who have maybe 2 homes in different places, and they are getting these subsidies. The fact that Democrats are going to the mat so millionaires can get additional money from the government is absolutely mind-boggling. This program is wrought with fraud. It has no income cap. So I want you to ask Democrats if they believe in that. If you were to extend these just as they are now, you're continuing to waste money, basically put it up in flames. And we need to make sure, just like we did with the working families tax cuts, that the people who actually need these things, Dana, can get them.
Okay.
And Democrats, once again, could care less about how much we spend, and they just want to try to find a political edge, and they don't have it on this
Senator,
one.
I hear you saying that there needs to be reform, which I understand. In the short term, though, the question is whether or not you would approve, because you might have an up or down vote on this, a 1-year extension for the premiums as they are. Would you vote yes or no?
Well, what I want to vote is to open the government, which I have done a number of times. I have said that I'm absolutely open to having conversation, but we're not going to extend a program that is wrought with fraud, waste, and abuse. There would have to be adjustments to this program to make it make sense for the American people. Look, we are spending out of oblivion, and the Democrats don't seem to focus on how do we make these things actually work. Our healthcare system is broken, the system that they put in place, and I remind you, this is their program, Affordable Care Act. These are their subsidies, and they set the date for their expiration. And now the Democrats want us to dig them out of a hole. What we want to do is make sure that the American people work and people get paychecks. Dana, this weekend I had people come up to me and say 2 things.
Senator,
1, I'm not getting a paycheck and I can't afford my mortgage. And 2, they said their small businesses
Senator, I just want to jump in
because we need to be focused on opening the government.
Yeah, right. And so your fellow Alabama Senator, Tommy Tuberville, said allowing the credits to expire would hurt my state. Do you agree with them?
Look, I think there can be reforms to these credits, but ultimately we're going to need a total overhaul. So I am absolutely willing to have a conversation, but we've got to open the government first, Anna. I mean, and I hope you call them out on this. They are holding the American people hostage for their own political gain. These things happen January 1st. We have plenty of time to have these conversations, and I think that we will.
So Katie Britt, as usual, puts on an absolute clinic, basically making sure that Dana Bash wasn't going to get a little too big for her britches and start needling her a little bit too much. Again, my theory that CNN has finally realized that, we can't really needle the sort of upper echelon of Republicans a little too much. We've got to give them space to talk. And so Katie Britt does a good job at the beginning, but I wish she had reminded everyone that the whole point and purpose of extending these subsidies were a part of Joe Biden's plan that, guess what? That Joe Biden's stimulus package essentially pushed the inflationary crisis over a cliff. And instead of reining in the problem, the Democrats want to continue that insane amount of spending. So here's the catch. The catch is that something that Tommy Tuberville brought up, something that Marjorie Taylor Greene brought up, and so one thing that Dana Bash said to her credit, and again, she's not terrible as a journalist. She held back and waited for Katie Britt to potentially overextend, but again, Britt does the right call, saying, hey, I'm willing to have a debate on that, but we've got to reopen the government. We've got plenty of time to talk about whether we should extend these subsidies or not. But she's not saying something that, and it's because of her position. There is something that she is not willing to say that I can point out. Because we have got to back up just the least little bit and talk about someone who isn't even in the room. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, why am I bringing up her instead of Tommy Tuberville? Tuberville is from the same state as Katie Britt, and by the way, we've got to talk briefly about the weird relationship between Alabama and Georgia. And this also has to do with Marjorie Taylor Greene because there's a huge chunk of her state that presses right up against the Alabama line. And I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds of geography and growth, but Alabama up in the Huntsville area is growing at an astronomical rate. The Mobile area is growing at a larger rate as their port continues to expand. And there's also regions outside of Montgomery, but there's also one that no one's talking about. And it's inside of what I call sort of this ghost triangle between Interstate 20, Interstate 59, and Interstate 75. And there's a lot of development to be had in this region, just no one has really realized it yet. And what does this have to do with healthcare? Well, people in these two states are still relying on Obamacare-level subsidies in a time where the economy keeps on getting better in these states. So the debate that you need to have, well, you know what? I'll get to that in a moment. But Marjorie Taylor Greene broke rank with Republicans and has done so quite often, both to her detriment and to her praise, trying to get Republicans to realize that, oh, there's a ton of folks in these areas that still need these subsidies or else they're threatening to vote in a different direction. And someone who has dealt with the good folks up in that region of Georgia, oh yeah, you don't mess with the rednecks and their health care. They need it. They need it badly. And Democrats are looking at that as an attempt to wedge their way in and try to make inroads with Republican voters. And Republicans are terrified of this idea because Democrats have forgotten how to talk to rural voters. And so if they start relearning how to do it, there goes a huge chunk of Republican support. So just as Republicans have figured out how to talk to urban voters and suburban voters, Democrats are starting to understand how to talk to rural voters. And so the debate that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tommy Tuberville are bringing up is, hey, we've got to increase this, we got to continue these policies while we try to find something better. Katie Britt, on the other hand, is saying, no, we've had plenty of time to talk about this, but we have got a spending problem. And she's right. The plan that actually continued the Obamacare subsidies made everything worse. Okay? It's what pushed us over the inflationary cliff. And we are just now starting to get a handle on it, but the way it was done during the Biden administration has been fake. And now during the Trump administration, he's trying to bring in some real policies. That's half the point of these tariffs. Instead of taxing Americans, or rather, instead of taxing everyone directly, he's taxing, surprisingly, wealthier Americans with these tariffs, particularly when it comes to China. Our luxury goods, guess who's buying the luxuries? It isn't us, all right? It's wealthier Americans. This is a great tactic for bringing in money, but it also requires a Senate not to break rank. And Tommy Tuberville and Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about this does give me some pause. However, the political animal in me continues to say, remember, American politics is all about coalitions. Can you keep your coalition of rural voters, suburban voters, people who believe in the strict ideology of the Constitution, your Jacksonian-style populists, some libertarians. Can you keep this coalition together? Katie Britt is saying yes, and here's how you do it. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tommy Tuberville are trying, on the other hand, to assuage the fears of people who might be hurt but by what would essentially be sound fiscal policy. So again, this is a very interesting battle, and Dana Bash is doing a good job. But Katie Britt, again, puts on a clinic without revealing what exactly the plan is. She's telling the world what she's open to. This is exactly how to use your voice politically. It's why the people of Alabama elected Katie Britt. But it's also why they keep on electing guys like Tommy Tuberville, and why my area votes for Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're willing to think outside the box. I deeply appreciate that in our politicians, and you know what? I want to know what you think down in the comments below. This is a little bit more of a nuanced take here, but I wanted to know what you think. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.